And to say, well, you're making angels and demons to be like God if they can perceive. No, God perceives everything at one time, all the time, has all knowledge that can ever be had. Right. Demons and angels cannot. Mm-hmm. They have focalized reception wherever they choose to put it or are allowed to put it.
Welcome to Bible Answers. Thanks for joining us for today's question. Let's jump in.
Welcome back to Bible Answers with Pastor Mike. We've got a question coming to us on the nature of Satan. Is he able to read our thoughts? The listener wants to know.
Yeah, that's a common question, and I think the common answer among most preachers and commentators is that he can't. And they say he can't because he's not omniscient. Mm-hmm. I just don't think those two things follow. Of course, he's not omniscient. No one claims that he's omniscient. It'd be like me, if I say I can see someone, doesn't mean I'm omniscient because I can see them and I can turn over here and see them. When we say read our thoughts, read means perceive. Can I know it? Can I perceive it? And I've always asked this question when people ask me, can Satan read your thoughts or a demon read your thoughts? Which, of course, is not Satan. Satan's busy. I mean, I'm assuming the people we're dealing with, the personalities we're dealing with are demons. Mm-hmm. Can a demon read my thoughts? My follow-up question is, if they can't read your thoughts, what do they read? Mm-hmm. And the question is perceive. What do they perceive? And then people say, well, they see what you do and they hear what you say. They're not tactile, they're not physical, they're not tangible beings, they're spiritual beings. Mm-hmm. And the spirit of a man is where the activity takes place in our thoughts, right? Our heart is our center of our thinking. In the parable of the soils, the interaction with Satan and the mind of the receiver of the truth is that he comes and steals that away from their mind, mm-hmm. right? Their heart. The word comes, the realm of their thinking, and there's activity there, demonic activity. And I just think there's nothing else a demon would perceive. Right. He doesn't have eyeballs. He doesn't have ears. He doesn't rely on photons or the vibrations of sound in the air. So while I know they have to have a focalized attention because they're not omniscient, nor are they omnipresent, can only be in one place at one time and perceive one thing at one time, unlike God. But I sure, the temptation takes place in my mind, the luring into sin, the battle that wages war against my soul, all of those things that he is actively involved in energizing, although I know my flesh is part of the fuel of all that. I'm led to the conclusion, if I think about it long enough, I would say, of course he can. Mm-hmm. It's not a popular view. It seems to be the minority view as I read people on this topic. But I'm led to that conclusion because of the nature of demonic or angelic beings. They're not physical.
And if you think about Paul in 2 Corinthians, I think it's 10:3-5, it's our warfare is not against flesh and blood, but it's against the spiritual realm, and we're supposed to take every thought captive. So that gets into the thought realm. So maybe that's more along the lines of what you're trying to say with getting into those types of things right there.
Yeah, because if it is a physical realm, mm-hmm. I often say, well, if you have to say something for them to perceive what you're saying, mm-hmm. I always ask then, well, how quietly do I have to say it before they can't perceive it? Right. They have to get really close, and then what gets close? They don't have ears. Mm-hmm. Right? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Mm-hmm. So I'm conceited in my own thinking as I live my Christian life that the battle takes place in my thought life, mm-hmm. right? And that thought life is open to not only God, but to spirit beings, right? Angels and demons. Mm-hmm. And to say, well, you're making angels and demons to be like God if they can perceive. No, God perceives everything at one time, all the time, has all knowledge that can ever be had. Right. Demons and angels cannot. Mm-hmm. They have focalized reception wherever they choose to put it or are allowed to put it. Mm-hmm. So, that's my answer. I know the Bible doesn't address it specifically, and that's the way every Bible teacher seems to answer the question, mm-hmm. or theologian. They'll say, well, the Bible doesn't address it specifically. And then they seem to always default to, well, can't read your thoughts because he's not omniscient. I just don't think those two are connected. Right. I think they can read your thoughts. And I think if I think otherwise, I've got a false sense of protection that somehow I can just fake them. I'll think one thing and say another. I can head fake the demonic being. I think that's all.
But something like that shouldn't bother the believer, right? No. So even if they could perceive your thoughts out, why would that bother us? Because of all the important passages you're talking about. be sober-minded, know your mind, repent, all these things. They're dealing with our minds.
Sure.
We want to be able to.
And I want to be concerned that God can perceive my thoughts, right? I mean, if you think about I worry about God looking at my thought life and seeing what it is, the holy God concerned about my thought patterns. And I also recognize the thoughts that I have oftentimes are fueled, or as some theologians would say, injected by the tempter. And I think they are responding to what they perceive in my own thoughts. So, I mean, we're into speculative theology at this point, but that's my take when I'm asked the question. I don't see any other way to view it.
Around it, right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for the question. And again, if you have any other questions, please email us at askpastormike@compasschurch.org. We'd love to help you out.